You are tuned into the Dr. Tina Show with Dr. Tina Moore. For more, visit drtyna.com. On this episode of the Dr. Tina Show, I am going to be talking to you on a quick and dirty episode about why I say that vasomotor symptoms, also known as hot flashes, are the harbinger of doom. So let's jump in. All right, so what is a hot flash? A hot flash is literally a vasomotor spasm. That means your vasculature is spasming, which is crazy to think about, which means your entire body is having a vasomotor spasm. And that's concerning when you think about the fact that the spasming is happening around your cardiovascular system, around your heart. It's happening potentially in your brain. These are vasomotor spasms. That's what is happening when you're having hot flashes. And that is why I say it's the harbinger of doom. These are not benign. These are not to be taken lightly. These are not to be dismissed. These are not something to be accepted. These are not something that we just brush off and say, oh, it's part of getting older and that's just what I have to expect. No. We do not want hot flashes, ladies. Bad hot flashes are a bad sign. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I'm telling you, the data clearly shows this. So just because your doctor hasn't told you, or you haven't looked into it, or the influencers aren't talking about it yet, does not mean that it's not a dangerous scenario to be in. And I think that folks that have chronic hot flash issues, I've seen these women in my clinics, and they all have something very much in common. And that is, in most cases, they are dealing with metabolic dysfunction, excess adiposity, and they are metabolically busted across the board. These women are women who don't go to the gym. They don't tend to necessarily be that concerned about their carbohydrate intake. They're not watching what they eat very much. And they're not even getting adequate movement. A lot of these are really nice women who are housewives or have been housewives who take care of the whole family, who like to bake a lot, or maybe they've just worked themselves into metabolic dysfunction due to chronic stress, and they weren't stay-at-home moms, they were the boss moms, you know. It's across the board, but one thing they all have in common is that they are not taking very good care of their physical body, and they are sitting in metabolic dysfunction, and they may or may not know it until I show them their labs. But vasomotor symptoms are a harbinger, and they are telling us something. So let's talk about this in a bit more detail, just so you can have all the facts. So understanding vasomotor symptoms, what are they? They're sudden sensations of heat, often accompanied by sweating and flushing, primarily of the upper body. That sweating and flushing is the vasomotor spasm happening. They're experienced by a significant number of women during menopause and other hormonal transitions. The metabolic connection is that insulin resistance has been shown in the data to relate very closely and be associated with the frequency and severity of hot flashes. So we know that particularly insulin resistance has been associated with the frequency and severity of hot flashes. And most American adults have some level of insulin resistance, unfortunately. So impaired insulin sensitivity and signaling can disrupt the hypothalamic regulation of body temperature, leading to vasomotor symptoms. And can this be helped with GLP-1s? Probably. I've had women report that they get less frequency of hot flashes, less severity, but that's not going to make up for time in the gym and hitting your protein macros and really taking advantage of the whole situation, including HRT. I'm a big fan. If you're dealing with chronic vasomotor symptoms, i.e. hot flashes, I would encourage you to go talk to somebody who knows what they're doing about hormone replacement therapy. All right, what about obesity and adipose tissue activity? Excess adipose tissue, especially visceral fat, contributes to systemic inflammation and metabolic disturbances, exacerbating hot flashes. So adipose tissue produces inflammatory cytokines that can affect thermoregulatory centers in the brain. Research indicates that individuals with higher body mass report more frequent and intense hot flashes. So that kind of goes with what I was explaining earlier of who I see this most often in. Dyslipidemia, or abnormal lipids, and cardiovascular implications. Abnormal lipid profiles, characteristics of metabolic syndrome, are associated with increased incidence of hot flashes. Elevated triglycerides and low LDL, for instance, may impair vascular function, leading to vasomotor symptoms. I think it's not so much a direct result of the lipid impairment. I think the lipid impairment is a symptom more often than not of the metabolic dysfunction, and usually the waning of the hormones, and usually hypothyroidism on to boot. And then they end up with these vasomotor symptoms. We can't blame it on the abnormal lipids. It's just something that goes in that profile that I often see. The broader impact of this metabolic dysfunction, think of the hot flashes as a symptom, all right, of a deeper problem, which is the metabolic dysfunction. Obviously, cardiovascular health, cognitive function, and bone density are the big ones when I worry about, and joint health, when I worry about metabolic dysfunction. These are the things we're going to see show up most notably. I also am concerned about these three things when it comes to waning estrogen. So this is where I say, yes, bring on the HRT, but you've heard me say this in past episodes. There's no point in taking hormone replacement therapy, utilizing peptide therapy, utilizing GLP-1s if you're not going to be doing the lifestyle, if you're not going to be doing all the things. This is a comprehensive approach. And I talk about it deep in my big course, my GLP-1s Done Right University. You can watch the free 4-part video series on GLP-1s, but regardless of whether you're interested in GLP-1s or not, if you are interested on how to truly optimize your metabolic health, your hormones, and to utilize peptides to include strategies for longevity and overall well-being, it's inside this course. And so I want to encourage anyone, any middle-aged woman who's looking, who likes what I have to say, who likes these podcasts, if you want the deep dive, it is inside that course. I probably could call it something different, take out and edit out all the GLP-1 stuff, and you would be floored by the level of information that's in there. It's basically a complete course on how I address metabolic health inside my clinic, and I am no longer taking patients. So this is the best way to access my brain. And I wrapped it up in a GLP-1 bow. Now I bring the conversation about GLP-1s and their advantages throughout. I weave that into the storyline throughout all of the modules. But if you're a middle-aged woman, and I get these questions all the time from you guys, I'm not interested in GLP-1s, but I want to know more about this. It's in the course. And I'm not going to make a separate course just for the same price with less information. So go ahead and grab that. When you go into the free 4-part video series, you'll get a coupon at the end, which will allow you to purchase it at a discount. And it's a great deal. It is chock full. And some of the testimonials I'm getting in there are from women saying, this is the most comprehensive education. It's easy to understand. I'm able to have educated conversations with my doctor now. There's a whole module on HRT. There's a whole module on the insulin sensitive lifestyle. There's a whole module on exercise and strength training. This is the course that you guys need as you go through middle age. So addressing metabolic dysfunction to alleviate hot flashes. There's dietary interventions. Obviously, I talk about that deep inside the course, but you know where I stand. I'm talking more of a high protein, lower carbohydrate. I like animal-based proteins. Physical activity, obviously, strength training is number one. And then I'm a big fan of walking. And if you want to throw in a few of these HIIT intervals, go for it. But strength training is the core foundation. Muscle is what's going to save you. Stress management is huge. Boy, is that huge. And I live this. Stress will derail your labs faster than anything I've ever seen. You could be doing everything right. You could be nailing it, have incredible discipline, have incredible follow through. You could be on the GLP-1s. If your stress is sky high, all bets are off. Your lipids go wonky, your hormones go wonky, your metabolic health goes wonky. It all feeds on each other and it turns into a bit of a hot mess of soup. So getting your stress under control is critical. Sleep optimization is huge. There's no quicker way into metabolic dysfunction than to have your sleep screwed up. And I get it. Your sleep's messed up because you're having the hot flashes. Or you're not able to get to sleep because your progesterone's low, or you're not able to stay asleep because your estrogen's low, or you wake up because you're sweating to death. You got to get your metabolic health in check. The hormones alone, the hormone replacement alone is not going to solve this problem for you. You need muscle to have good metabolic health, and you need good metabolic health to have happy hormones, whether you're taking them exogenously or getting them endogenously because you're making them still. So sleep is key, but if your sleep is going, it means these other things are screwed up. It's not the hot flash's fault. The hot flash is a symptom. It's a messenger. It's telling you, it's the harbinger of doom. Remember that. All right. And then in conclusion, listening to your body signals. So if you're getting hot flashes, do not normalize them. Do not let your doctor dismiss you and normalize them. Do not let them tell you, oh, your cholesterol's going up, eat less fatty meat. If all of this is happening, I promise you, you're having a decline in hormones if you're in middle age, and you are very likely under-muscled and metabolically compromised. Most women are. Most women walking down the street that I see are metabolically compromised, and they are low muscle mass, period. It's just the plight of our generation. And you will continue to have difficulties gaining muscle if your hormones are still waning, if your estrogen is declining. So I've tried to do a series of podcasts where I wrap this whole storyline together. I do a much better job of tying it all up inside my course and my GLP-1s Done Right University. But either way, that's what it is at the end of the day. The answer's in the gym. The answer's in the gym and the kitchen. Most times that's the solution. And then we need to sprinkle a little hormone on top. And it's real hard to sprinkle hormone on top and have it work right if you're metabolically compromised and you're a hot mess. So get your shit together. Take it seriously. If you're having vasomotor symptoms, i.e. hot flashes, there's a problem. And it is a big red flag. And I highly encourage you to address it, because the long game of continuing to live with hot flashes is cardiovascular compromise, is brain compromise, is a lot of issues that we don't want to be dealing with. All right, I'll leave it at that. If you guys are interested in jumping into that course, you can get there by heading to drtyna.com/Ozempic Uncovered. That will give you access to a free 4-part video series on GLP-1s. And from there, I make an offer into the big course for a discount. If you just want to buy it outright without the discount, you can go to my website. It's under the courses tab and you can grab it there. But I highly encourage you to watch the GLP-1 Uncovered, Ozempic Uncovered video series, because there's a lot to be learned there, whether you're considering them or whether you have family members on them. I guarantee somebody you love in your life close to you is on them or going to be on them at some point in the near future. So learn what you can so that we can make educated decisions. And if you want the meat and potatoes of my brain, it is inside that big course. And I highly encourage you to check it out. I will see you guys soon. And please take this to heart. This is the warning sign. If you're getting hot flashes, go do something about it now. Thanks for listening to the Dr. Tina Show. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and mixed by Mike Fry. Theme song is by John the Guild. You can watch the full video version of this podcast inside the Spotify app or on YouTube. As always, you can email the podcast at podcast@drtyna.com. That's DRTYNA. And if you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find all of my offerings on my website at drtyna.com. For more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com. See you next time, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practices of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. I am a doctor, but I am not your doctor. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is intended not to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.